introduction, Jodie. That's fantastic. And you mentioned data management. Great job doing a master's in data science. We need more of that, believe it or not. So, okay. So the work that we do is funded largely through the Queensland Government Drought and Climate Adaptation Program and the Queensland Reef Water Quality Program. So I'm just going to run through the Long Paddock website. Who here has not heard of the Long Paddock website or used it? That means everyone's used it. Who's a regular user? Fantastic, so a mixed bag. Okay, all right, so I'll try and focus mainly on the updates because clearly everyone's used it at some stage, and we have these key bits of information on our homepage, and we did a bit of a refresh a few years ago. That was funded through the Drought and Climate Adaptation Program, and hopefully it's a lot easier to use with the ribbon across the top for the key areas, and I'll just work through most of those in this talk. And of course, it's all free. Our most popular thing is the rainfall posters, by far. Who here uses the rainfall posters? Yeah, excellent. And of course, we've got this great app now that you can scroll through and look at the periods of wet and dry, the wet and dry periods, and then you can focus in on particular years and it'll give you the rainfall and the simulated pasture growth. If anyone wants a copy of each of the posters or an updated copy, just email us at longpaddock.qld.gov.au and we can post you out some posters. These are a great conversation starter, I think. Yeah, getting some nods. That's great. Good to know. This is a little bit more helicopter view. This is Aussie grass. Does anyone use Aussie grass at all? Yeah, a few people. Maybe make that one. Okay, so Aussie grass is very much a high-level look at what's happening across Australia. Again, it's simulated. It's a combination of observed, like from satellite images and pasture growth simulations. And there's a lot of information that's available on Aussie grass. Like there's curing, there's pasture growth, there's a comparison around like how this season compares with historical rainfall and pasture growth. And you'll see there that the one that I've got up there is what it opens with. So this is the most likely tercile. So with this snapshot, you can see that blue is good pasture growth and rainfall, and the red is below average and grey is neutral. So it's splitting the full record into above, median and below. So the three groups, that's your terciles. And what it's looking at is what's the most likely tercile that we're going to be in for the coming November to January. And it's based on a lot of things, the ground cover, the projected rainfall, the pasture growth so far this year, things like that, the rainfall that's happened. We are getting an animation soon that explains what terciles are and how this can be helpful. Another popular product is the Forage Reports, and we've been developing these reports over time. Does anyone use the Forage Reports when they go out? Oh, that's great. Okay, so I don't need to explain it to you. But I can probably just add that we're now getting around 4,000 requests for Forage Reports per month through the Long Paddock website. So we know that they're being used. Sometimes we don't know how they're being used. So if there's some kind of feedback that you want to give us, feel free, again, to email longpaddock@qld.gov.au with feedback on that. Our latest edition is the Long-Term Carrying Capacity Report, and we're hoping soon, very soon, to have a interactive map-based version of Forage, where you can go in and change things like your infrastructure. If the land type mapping is not quite matching, you can actually rename that, because that's been a big criticism that we've had about Forage Reports is that actually it's not capturing the right land type. And with time, we're going to add more improvements in there. So you can also add that you've got buffle. We're hoping to add in future the impact of leukina and other sown pastures in there as well. So coming soon, watch this space. We're also hoping to get a phosphorus map. We've got the erodible soils map and we wanted to add phosphorus. That's been a work in progress by our landscape sciences team, who are the soil scientists, and then we're hoping to get that out soon. Building on their work. I was just going to go through, but you already all use Forage, so I probably don't need to tell you about how it all works. We do have a video explaining each one. This is a recent, not all, if you go back, looking back through all the Forage reports, you won't get a video explaining it. This is a fairly recent work that we've done in combination with Jodie and team, and these all actually sit on Future Beef. So we do have other videos and webinars that help to explain what's on the Long Paddock, and we hope soon to continue adding to that. So has anyone watched the animation explaining? Yeah, it's great, isn't it? So we're adding tersols with the same characters, and we're also going to add one that looks at sort of the cycle of, the wet and dry poster, sort of looks at the impacts of those, and that's been put together by a social science team, looking at how that affects people's decision making. So that one's a little bit more tricky to have out there. So yeah, see what you think of it when it comes out.
Big kids like it just as much as little kids.
Fantastic, good to hear. Does everyone know the climate dogs from Victoria? Yeah, they're great too, aren't they? Does anyone use Silo? Oh, fantastic. Silo is traditionally, it was put together to help biophysical modelling. So it's a copy of the Bureau of Meteorology historic database, and all the gaps in there filled in through a complex data science, complex analysis in there. And they've also made it gridded so that you can do spatial analysis and spatial modelling as well. Recently, we've added, I should say most people get this data through API. So it's a message that comes, a script that comes from a user's computer directly into Silo to grab the data. And recently we've added a bit more of an interactive page where you can look at what's available spatially, and you can zoom in, and then when you actually click on a marker on a station, you get a little bit of information about the data that's available. So I think that's Emerald Airport, and it starts, it's only fairly, a couple of decades old, but it's got good quality data through that period. So rather than downloading it and then looking at it and going, oh yeah, it doesn't have that much data in it, you can actually play with it, and you can use these bars here to hone in your search. So anyway, that's all right. We also have drought information. This is probably very handy for you, not necessarily for the grazier, but it's on this page you will find information about the current drought. We've got a drought map sequence viewer, which I'll just show you briefly in a minute. We've got a drought map archive, and we've got information about historical droughts and how declarations have changed over time. A little bit about that, and we're hoping to have a new report in there that sort of updates, how long since an area has been in drought, that kind of thing. So quite handy, that one. So the drought map sequence viewer is quite flexible. You can go down a rabbit hole with this one. You can change up what you want to look at. But basically the design is that instead of flicking through different parts of the Long Paddock website, you start with your drought map, with your period of interest, and then it looks at the conditions leading into that drought declaration. So pretty much you can look at that and say, yeah, we could see that it was getting drier over time. But you can change it up, you can change it to different times. And if you click on the one right at the right hand, show the timeline, if you click on that, it'll give you a whole different number of options like soil, water, and different things that you can line them all up. You can get a whole heap of maps up there, and then you can download it as a PDF. Oh, look, it's linked into it. I don't think we need to do that. Alright. No, it's going to do it. Sorry, I didn't mean for that to come up. Alright. Right. The Climate Outlooks page has just mainly just links into what other groups are doing. We don't do any of this work ourselves, so in our team. So it links to things like your climate health and cotton moisture manager, things that people have found really handy. Just as a quick link, if you're already on the Long Paddock website, you can go there. It's got fire information. We do have the spotter reports, which are still like a developmental forecasting system that was hoping to sort of give a longer lead time to seasonal forecasting. But that's that one. That's all I want to say on that one, really. Our future climate, has anyone had a look at this website, this web page on it? Yeah, it's pretty dense, isn't it? It's pretty, yeah, okay, all right. That's good feedback, thank you. So this is our page where we have our downscale climate projections for looking at future climate risk. And if you look on the actual dashboard, it's an interactive page on the right there, and you can choose your area, you can choose your climate indice, your emission scenario, and you can really fiddle around. It gives you what the different models tell you and the model means on the right-hand side there. It has a storyboard description of how those projections were developed as well. So if you look through that, it says why is it important to use downscale projections, and gives you a bit of information on how they're done and how people use them. It has two at the moment case studies, one on heat waves, and the Queensland heat wave strategy was actually updated using this information, so it describes how that was done, and another one on water security, and they're examples of maybe how you would use this information. What we're hoping to do next is actually record a kind of video that says, if you're looking for some pretty basic information, this is what you do to get that. Or if you're looking for more complex or a full data set, this is where you go to get it. So that's our next step with it. We've also got regional reports coming out. So you might say, I want everything that you've got on one of the southwest areas, and it'll just automatically download it all for you, and that's LGA based. So that'll be helpful as well. Extreme events, we're looking at an extreme events page on that too. So, and in that one you'll be able to look at the data presented in a different way. So instead of presenting the change in time, it will look at the change in risk. So things like what engineers you use for building a bridge or so. It'll look at how flood risk or extreme winds will change over time. So your 1 in 100 year event, 1 in 10,000 year event, that kind of thing. It's a lot more complex because you've got to create a data set around that. And again, there's a whole data science around that, how to do that correctly. And the last slide was just to talk about, our last point up there is the Drought and Climate Adaptation page, which goes through the program itself, and you can find information about the work that we've done across the whole Drought and Climate Adaptation program, which is a joint program with DAF and USQ, the Bureau of Meteorology and MLA. So that's handy. There's contact us is right up the top of above sort of, I didn't capture one with it in it, but in there it's got the two email addresses, and it's always there, no matter where you are on the Long Paddock. There's a contact us above the ribbon at the top. So any questions, you can send them through, or comments, feedback is helpful for us, because we definitely want to keep producing something that's useful to you guys. You're the ones that are selling this for us, so that's it.